find out from the world of law. Very good. Dream team lineup for you tonight. Okay, I think we're nearly done there on YouTube. I'll just have to... Oh, it says video unavailable. I'll come back to that. Let's get started with the dream team here. So good evening to you, Daniel Reyes, who was here first this evening, behind the scenes, talking about sailing. How are you, Daniel? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much. I'm quite all right, although the past few days have been rainy and foggy in Lisbon. I'm longing for the normal winter weather that we usually have in Lisbon, and this is usually sun and not too cold. But it will come in our direction. And there's actually a very interesting news in the law world, and this is connected with golden visas, the expression of interest, and the nationality. And this is something that I would like to convey. Basically, the waiting time for golden visas and the expression of interest or manifestação de interesse in Portuguese. If the president approves the law, so he still needs to sign it, but if he does approve the law, the waiting time will be accounted for in terms of the nationality. And this was being unfair for people that have the application pending for 2 years and a half. And now that unfairness is being corrected, so I'm quite happy. And I do have a lot of happy clients with this change in or potential change in the law until the law is signed, is not approved yet. But I don't see any reasons why it shouldn't be approved by the president. So I'm crossing fingers for that. Quite happy for this new excellent development. And this will speed up a lot of nationality processes.
That's great news, isn't it? Really good, because
Yeah.
we have thought about how awful that was and how long people had to wait. So that's a great change, but only if the president signs that off, which is how the process works here in Portugal, of course. Do you think he will?
I think he will, because I've assessed the law. I haven't seen any unconstitutional bits. And at least this portion, it's only putting a bit of fairness into the system, because applicants are not at fault that CEF takes, or AIMA nowadays. I'm sorry, I still have CEF in my memory, my muscle memory. And AIMA, as it takes too long and the applicants are not at fault on this, I don't think that they should be harmed by the public entities being slow. So I think it just brings fairness into the system. And I really hope that the president signs the law, and that those 2.5 years that the applicants were waiting will indeed be accounted for the nationality process. And I think he will approve it for sure.
Brilliant. Great news. And we'll come back to you if anyone has any questions about the law. We do actually already have a question, but we'll come back to that, Denise, because we need to meet the rest of the dream team who are here tonight. The wonderful women of EI and Casa Portuguesa. Of course, Diana and Mariana are here. Mariana, good evening to you. How are you? How's your day been? How has it been getting back to work and dealing with AIMA, CEF, that Daniel was referring to there? How are you, Mariana? Tudo bem?
Hi, tudo bem, guys, and Happy New Year from my part. Everything, the year is starting great, with the visas and everything, apart from the CEF/AIMA.
Yeah.
Because there's no vacancy still for anything right now, and that's the update, which is not the update, but you know.
You knew I was going to ask you that anyway, though, didn't you? So thank you for that update, which isn't an update, but it's good to know. It's not great news, but it's good to know what's going on at that front line. Anything else to report from the world of migration?
Right now, no, because everything is going, I can tell that, for instance, we're having visas being relatively quick being approved. So that's a good news in the US with Washington, and also in London. So that's a good update, I think.
Yeah, nice to see. London has a pretty good record, doesn't it? And seems to have had for the last few months, which is great from my hometown there. So thanks for being here, Mariana. Any questions about migration, of course, to Mariana. And Diana, who's also here. Diana, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Good to see you. How was your Christmas, and how are you feeling going into the new year?
Very good, very excited. Happy to help all of you with all of your immigration issues. And yeah.
Excellent. Lovely to see you here. So I'm sure both Mariana and Diana will be working behind the scenes as well if you want to message them. Excellent. Carolina Muralha, how are you? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, everybody. How are you? Tudo bem? I'm very well, thank you. the housing market continues to be in good shape. And I'm here to answer all the questions you might have regarding housing, driver's license, health number. I'm here for you, basically.
Excellent. Thank you. We did have an inquiry about Coimbra and getting help in Coimbra, finding somewhere to rent. You can help with that, can't you?
Of course I can.
So there you go. That was for somebody who was on our last call. So the good news there, the Casa Portuguesa can help you all over Portugal and especially in Coimbra. And one of the I think we can call it the academic capital, can't we? And probably the third biggest city here in Portugal after possibly Daniel nodding his head, maybe Braga, Coimbra. Let's not get bogged down with that right now. Okay, fantastic. Let's go to Sarah Davey. Good evening to you. I suspect in the UK this evening. Is it chilly there?
It is actually. We've had snow in sort of certain parts of the south again, so I think there's more snow maybe coming. So quite wintry at the moment.
Okay, well, I hope you had a great Christmas. Happy New Year to you. And how's it looking in the currency world, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, we said it just before Christmas that I think that it could be quite volatile this year. What we're looking at is, again, inflation data and whether the ECB and the Fed are going to cut interest rates. We did have some data that came out today in the US. Inflation data was actually higher than expected. So actually, rather than cut interest rates, they may look to increase them or they may hold off for the moment. So it's really, as I said, all eyes on sort of what's happening with inflation as to what they're going to do and how that's going to impact the currencies. Traditionally, if countries increase interest rates, then that's strengthens that currency. And if they cut interest rates, then it will weaken. So that's kind of what we're looking at the moment. Also, because the inflation data was higher than expected, it sort of shook the markets a little bit. And we saw a knock-on effect, for example, like the Canadian dollar that weakened a little bit on the back of that as well. So yeah, there's a lots of things that might be coming out this year, and we just want to keep everyone in the loop with what's happening and try and help you budget for your move to Portugal.
Perfect. And open an account with Spartan FX by emailing or getting in touch. Expats Portugal at spartanfx.co.uk. All the details are on the screen there. Shari is also here. Thanks, Sarah. Shari from Greenback Tax Services. How are you?
Hi, Carl. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I've just had a little sign come up on the screen for me saying it sounds like you might have started speaking a different language. I'm going to take that as a compliment that Zoom thinks I'm speaking Portuguese and could identify me as such. Yes, results. Shari, can you refresh our memories? And for anyone who's new to the call tonight, what is it that Greenback Expat Tax Services do? I know it's a silly question because it kind of says so on the tin there, but could you give us a little bit of a description of what you do from day to day?
Sure. We do help American expats file their U.S. taxes. So yeah, basically everything about U.S. taxes. And just to give announcement to everyone, the IRS has announced that the 2024 tax season will officially launch on January 29th. So if you guys are ready to file your U.S. tax return, you can start starting the process. So
Okay.
if you'd like to know more about the U.S. tax deadlines for 2024, we would be happy to share that.
Thank you very much. Now, I lost you a little bit when you were talking about the date from the IRS there. What a start to the year. The IRS have announced their date. Filing is when?
On the 29th of January.
29th of January. Thank you for that. So anything to do with filing US taxes as an expat, Greenback here to help you. Thanks, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry, pop them in the chat and I'll make sure she gets to see those as well. Nunu, the world of insurance. Happy New Year to you. How are you? What's going on in the world of insurance, Nunu?
Hello, good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning. I don't know, depending on where you are. Happy New Year to everyone, and the challenge year. About the world of insurance, it's the insurance worries are about the damages due to severe weather and cyber risk, mainly. Regarding the Portuguese reality, a little bit of chaos on the public healthcare system is overwhelming, also private. Generically, on the edges, some people are concerning about, not concerning, but it's a challenge, how to embrace AI in the insurance business, special in process, and keep the bond, the human bond. So because insurance is always about people.
Yes.
So in special, insurance, we don't like the we are very technological, but we don't like send people to some quote and do it by yourself, because you don't have the whole information. There are a lot of details on the wordings. So in special,
Sorry, go ahead, Nuno. I just that was you coming through on Zoom there. Sorry, on YouTube, but carry on. I beg your pardon.
no, I finished. So it's
Okay.
about basically.
Yes, and that's worthy of repeating there. You, as Winsurance, you are a very technologically advanced company, happy to embrace all the benefits of technology, but keen not to lose touch with the human aspects and the connection between human beings, right? That's how I understand you.
Yes, it's a kind of reflection of who I am. So I love tech, as you know. I love tech, and I also love go to the bushes and stay there without nothing. So without
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
So it's yeah, it's a dual.
Best of all worlds. Best of all worlds is how I'm going to put that.
We
Yeah,
try.
as a top scout, that's Nuno this evening. So let's get into the questions. I think that's all of the dream team. Forgive me if I haven't mentioned anybody. We'll get around to you for sure, and we'll get to as many questions as we can this evening. First of which, over here on Zoom, there are questions coming in on YouTube as well. So thank you for those. First one on Zoom tonight. Oh, as well as greetings from Tom Smith in Ohio. Sloan is here as well, and Denise, who asked that first question. Daniel, does that mean for ancestral citizenship as well? I've been in the process for 1.8 years already. That's very specific. What would you say about ancestral citizenship then, Daniel, with this new change in the law or potential change?
Well, it doesn't affect whatsoever the waiting period once you request the nationality. This change in the law, what it allows actually is to anticipate the requests of the nationality, and it doesn't affect the decision time of the nationality whatsoever. So for ancestry, we are seeing 2 years to 2.5 years of waiting period if the process is all correct, if nothing is needs to be added or needs to be corrected. So expect around 26 months, 30 months to have the nationality finished by the ancestry route. And this change in the law will not affect the waiting period, probably as it will allow more people to request nationality sooner. It may affect the waiting periods because more people will be able to access the Portuguese nationality or to submit the request sooner. But there's one interesting thing, and this is a development that allows lawyers to submit nationality requests online. And the perception that we're having is that the IRN, the civil registry here in Portugal, are checking out those processes a little bit sooner, at least the initial documents. So there are several pages, several stages in the process, but the initial assessment being done online is indeed a bit faster from the normal paper procedure that we were used to. So we've been using recently that new development that the registry has allowed. And probably with time, it will allow the process to be a bit more expedited, because before, the registry would be the ones responsible for scanning the documents and then processing it. Now we are removing the burden of scanning the documents, and there's a lot of fields that we are, as lawyers, filling in, and this makes the registry's job way easier. So I think that with time and with the implementation of this process, eventually 1 or 2 years from now, the processing time will be a bit faster, but these things take time to have its effect. And there's a lot of still pending processes that are the old-fashioned way, the paper route. So yeah, for waiting periods, I don't have really excellent news. but things will improve on a later stage with this new electronic submission fashion that we're having now.
All right, thanks, Daniel. So possibly there, Denise is what we're going to go with there. Susie, I think, celebrating, and Grace and Charlie, who've all got their visas by the sound of it, and Sarah at Spartan. A shout out for Stephen as well. People have their favourites at Spartan, don't they? So some special mention there for Stephen. If you could pass that on tomorrow morning, that would be awesome. Donovan, hello from Los Angeles. My question is there some kind of list of the steps necessary to move to Portugal from California from start to finish that shows what I can do before I visit for the first time in March? Now, Mariana, thank you for being all over that straight away. I'm working with Donovan behind the scenes there. But yeah, book a consult call with EI to find out what those steps are, Donovan, and you can find EI in our business directory, and members of Expats Portugal get a discount on their service as well. S also in Los Angeles tonight. And thank you, Sarah. If anyone needs help moving their money to Portugal for any payments you need to make, which could be lawyers' fees, the NIF, topping up your bank, anything like that, do get in touch with Sarah, Expats Portugal at spartanfx.co.uk. Adding there, if you're just starting your journey and it's early stages, you can request a copy of our Moving Money to Portugal guide, which you can also get a link for in the chat there. Lloyd, thank you for your greetings. Hot and humid in Canberra in Australia. So Nunu, absolutely right. Good morning there. To Lloyd. And Susie, hello from San Francisco. Yeah, visa approved. I'm at appointment scheduled. NHR approved. This is all great news. House just about rented near Tomar and heading to Portugal in March. We love news like that. Thanks to all the Expats Portugal members, especially Barak and Michelle, EIA Insurance, and Resin Pelicano for their amazing assistance. Love hearing your good news. Do share that with us in the chat as well, all those lovely milestones. Dwight, we have used Nuno and Insurance for our Portugal home insurance for MGen private health insurance, and soon to be additional home health nursing home and health concierge insurance as very affordable, we think, in case anything would cause us to require it. Nuno and Camilla and Joanna, who work with him, have been exceptionally responsive to our needs and concerns by email and WhatsApp. So a testimonial rather than a question. Thanks for that, Dwight. This is all great news. Thank you very much. And Jerry, also helping you there, Donovan, in the chat. Actually, just lots of good news that I think being exchanged in the Zoom chat tonight, which is fantastic. Dwight adding, we've also had exceptional service with Stephen Flack with Spartan FX too. So shout out to Stephen from Dwight as well. And A for multiple services. Thank you, Sherry, for that link in the chat as well there. What expats need to know about US tax deadlines in 2024. Very helpful, Dream Team. Thank you very much. And I think, Donovan, yes, we've got you already. As we know, nothing happens quickly in Portugal, says Tom. Well, not nothing. I mean, some things are a little bit slow. Some things happen very, very quickly. Like the next public holiday and partying, which happens to be Carnival. We were discussing that in the last call. I see they are proposing extending the Lisbon Metro Red Line and new Violet Line in Odivelas and Loures, since the funds are mostly in place and coming from the EU. Does it seem likely that these will be built in a timely fashion? I don't know who we would speak to about that. Daniel, have you got a view on the extension to the metro? Is it going to be like the airport?
Well, I don't think so. I can speak with some property on the extension of the metro because it's coming nearby my home. I do live in Loures, and it was a big ruckus at the time because basically the people from Infantado, where the metro was supposed to pass, they did a petition that they didn't want the metro passing inside the neighborhood, and basically instead of having the metro 5 minutes walking from my home, probably it's going to be 20 because of that petition. I wasn't a happy bird on that one, but I think that one is already decided upon and the funds are already in place. Although I've not seen yet any construction being started, so still that to begin with. But it's highly needed, that metro line. Because one of the major problems of Lisbon is that the metro, opposing to what happens in Porto, doesn't reach the majority of the outskirts of the city. So the metro in Lisbon, it only works in the city center, and it does not extend to the municipalities out, like Loures, Cascais, Oeiras, Amadora, all those municipalities. Therefore, having a line that connects the municipalities in the outskirts to Lisbon, it will take a lot of traffic that comes every day from outside to inside of the city. So it's a really a necessity, I would say, to improve the quality of life of people living in Lisbon and people working in Lisbon, like my case. If the transport system was good, I would for sure take the metro instead of driving. But as the buses are not that great, I unfortunately drive every day to work. Regarding the airport, well, I think it's a lost cause. We'll never have it.
Let's not get him started on that. It's a
Yeah.
typical thing, though, isn't it? Like, do we want an airport? Yes. Do you want it near your house? No. So
Yeah.
it's stuck in
Yeah.
that loop there. And I just want to say, Lourdes, it's interesting to mention, Lourdes, because it's somewhere that you pass by on the A8 coming into Lisbon, and
Correct.
notably because of the IKEA store there.
Yeah.
I went to the shopping mall in Lourdes the other day with the family. I'm all heart me a day out with the family to the shopping mall, and I really liked it. I think I don't see it very often listed as places to consider living for expats and foreigners coming into Portugal. But what an amazing place! It seems very well serviced, that neighborhood, and very handy for Lisbon, obviously.
It is indeed. That neighborhood that is in the vicinities of the shopping is the Infantado neighborhood that I was addressing. And it's really interesting because you have A8, as you did mention, but there's no tolls. So where I do live, I live 5 minutes driving to that shopping. I don't have any tolls coming to the city, and this makes a difference. If I was living in Mafra, for instance, I would need to pay the tolls or Ericeira. So I do like the place where I live. I call it the beginning of the countryside in Lisbon. So I do see cows and sheep and all those farm animals while I'm driving to work, and I do enjoy it. And I did decide to live a bit away from the city center so I could have a detached house, and I wouldn't be a part of condominium meetings. But on a professional level, I go on a lot of condominium meetings.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I lost the opportunity of living in a flat and avoiding condominium meetings, but I'm gaining that with my professional type of business. So it is what it is.
brilliant. It's a Lourdes. I would recommend it as a place to look at if you're interested in living
I do
in
think
or
it's a
near
good place.
Lisbon. Yeah, absolutely. I was it surprised me that I hadn't been there and didn't know about it, and we had a good time there. Duarte has just arrived. Good evening to you, Duarte from Conceita. I imagine quite a busy chap starting the year, helping people out with the NHL. How are you, Duarte? Bueno.
Hello everyone. Good evening.
So how are things going for you?
Happy New Year to all. Things are fine. Not too busy as in the last months of 2023, but busy enough.
Okay, excellent. So any questions you can field for us tonight about the NHL, anybody, which it's been surprisingly quiet inquiries about the NHL, but Duarte is here. The cavalry are here now to answer the questions on the NHL. So Duarte is here and can help on that. Thanks, Duarte. Good evening to you, and thanks for being here. I'm going to go back to Shari from Greenback. You were talking to somebody there. Could we make this not the particular conversation there, but it was a useful point, I think, about filing in the US and the question that was asked there about extensions and so on. Can you elaborate on that for the rest of us here, please, Shari?
Hello. Okay. So for if you are a U.S. expat or an American living outside the U.S., the IRS will give you additional 2 month extension. So the usual filing deadline is April 15th. So because you are living outside the US, the IRS will give you more time to file your taxes. So your deadline will going to be June 15th.
Okay, great.
However, if you have tax payable, you need to pay on or before the April 15th to avoid any interest. You can still pay on the June 15th deadline, but there will be
Extra interest on that. Okay, well, thank you for that elaboration. So people living outside of the United States who are filing can get an extension. and speak to Greenback about that. Thanks, Sherry, very much for that. Let's go to Duarte. No sooner have we mentioned NHR questions than one comes in from Rebecca. Duarte, for you. Say I land in Portugal on July the 1st with a D7 visa, but haven't attended the IMA appointment yet. It seems I may be able to apply for the NHR then, since our D7 appointments were made before December 31st, that key date that came up last year, of course. My question is, from what date in 2024 am I considered a Portugal tax resident? January the 1st, 24, the date I get the NHR, or some other date? Great question, Rebecca. Over to you, Duarte.
The NHR is always linked with the date of tax residency. So once you actually move to Portugal and establish your tax residency in Portugal, you are allowed to apply for the NHR. The date in which you apply to the NHR is not relevant. What's relevant is the date of tax residency. So let's say that you become a tax resident in February, but you only apply for the NHR in the end of the year. What will matter for 2024 will be the date in which you became a tax resident, meaning that the NHR will be applicable to all that period, even if the NHR request is made after.
That's superb. Thank you, Duarte. Thanks for the question, Rebecca. We go over to the Naunu, who said, missed you all. Yeah, we had a nice break, and we're back into it now. We'll be here, Dream Teams from 9 o'clock, and of course, the Expats Portugal webinars from 7:30. And of course, next, I forgot to mention while we were talking to Nuno earlier on, that it will be a healthcare special using the public and private services here in Portugal when it comes to medicine and health. And Nuno will be with us from 7:30 next Thursday evening to talk about all of that with you. Over to the Naunu over on YouTube with a question, and back to you, Daniel, for this, who may have missed your earlier input. Thoughts on the new law to count more time toward the 5-year nationality? I think you've covered that. The specific question, it's only for golden visa applicants or D visa applicants also? Will it start at manifestation of interest date or biometrics date?
Well, the reading that I have from the law, this is still up to debate and this is still quite fresh, but the reading that I have from the law is the date of submission. And usually the date of submission with the manifestação de interesse or the expression of interest is the time that the documents are submitted, the applicant presses send, and the application is being assessed or will be assessed by CEF. So it's when it departs the applicant and it reaches CEF. For golden visa applicants, it's more or less the same thing, although I do usually consider a bit of a different date, because with the golden visa process, you need to submit it and then to pay the initial fees. It's around 560 euros for the initial assessment. So I usually do consider the date of submission, the date of payment of the fees, and this usually occurs 3 or 4 days after the submission. But give or take, it's the date that the processes were submitted to CEF and not the time that the biometric data occurred. Because with golden visas or either manifestação de interesse, you can be waiting for the biometric data appointment for 1.5 years. So although the change would be interesting, but it wouldn't be the game changer. What is the game changer is indeed that if you have your residency permit approved, the time that you waited from the day of the submission of the process until the residency permit is conceded, you will be able to account that for the time of the nationality. So I think it's brilliant.
Okay, thank you for that. And there's a answer to your question, Nano, over on YouTube. Keep those questions coming in. We did have the Portuguese translation of no questions tonight. We had a lot of testimonials and kind words, but now apaguntas from Diana this evening. So you keep those questions coming in, both here on Zoom, which I'll prioritize, and in YouTube, of course. And good evening to you, Gail. -28 in Calgary. Good to see you here tonight. And Happy New Year from Linda and Derek in sunny Lagos today. Good to have you two here as well this evening. Thanks, Duarte, from Rebecca. But what date would I become tax resident if I arrive on July the 1st, 2024, assuming there are not 183 days left in the fiscal year? I ask specifically in regard to the transitionary NHR rules. And you may have seen, Duarte, Kelsey and Alicia are also asking, and tax residency starts after being in the country for 183 days or question mark. Can you help with those two? Can you bring those two together?
Yeah, sure. So the tax residency happens, or the tax residency is triggered by a declaration of the taxpayer. So you have to make a statement that you want to become a tax resident in Portugal. In order to do that, you need to comply with certain rules, but you are the one who has to put some documents together, send them to the tax authorities, and request the change of tax residency. So it's something that I would recommend doing after you are actually living in Portugal. Now, the 183-day rule. This is a rule. This is a tool in Portugal, at least, that will be used by the tax authorities more than by the taxpayers. Most countries will determine the tax residency based on the 183-day rule. In Portugal, we have a very specific set that allows for partial tax residency. So ultimately, it's possible that you were non-resident for 364 days, and then you become tax resident for one single day in any given in the first year of tax residency. So this rule, this 183-day rule, will not be the one determining that you are a tax resident in Portugal, unless the tax authorities will bring that up to you. So let's say that you live in Portugal for more than 183 days in any given 12-month period, and you did not change the tax residency to Portugal. In that case, the tax authority might come back to you and say, I know that you've been here for more than 6 months, so you should have been a tax residency based on that. But you can, and you should, become a tax resident in Portugal because you declared so to the tax authorities, even though you might spend less than half a year in Portugal, because the 183 days correspond to 6 months roughly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Duarte, for that. And we've got a question from Alexandra, part of which I think you can address. And I think, Dwight, I imagine in Duarte's responses there, we've answered your question, Dwight, but if we haven't, do reassert your inquiry there. It was Alexandra who's asking, are there any things we need to organise regarding tax and healthcare if we're already an EU citizen? So I'm assuming then Alexandra has come from a different part of the EU, has gone with their paperwork to the local freguesia and has become a resident in Portugal. What do they need to do with their taxation as a resident now in Portugal, Duarte?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
in terms of filing a return, I mean, if they're living here, should they, whether they're earning or not, is it a requirement to file to the Portuguese tax authority?
Well, any tax resident in Portugal should file taxes, but filing taxes is always based on income earned. So if for the period in which this person was a tax resident in Portugal, there was no income, there will be no need for a tax return because it would be an empty tax return. Okay. The tax return will only be due if you actually have income in the period of tax residency in Portugal.
Okay, that's really helpful on that part on the tax side. Thanks, Duarte, for that. Nunu, so then when we come to healthcare for somebody coming from another part of the EU, should they register? What would you recommend they do? I think we might need you on mute.
Just unmuting. So first is getting the SNS number, okay? Afterwards, you are allowed to request the free EU health insurance, which allows you to access to any public hospital among EU. Nevertheless, you need to also take into consideration 2 points. Regarding Portugal, the public system, yes, is good. Yes, it has some capacity, but in this moment, it's really struggling with the lack of doctors, facilities, and so on. So the private is plan A, never plan B.
Okay.
So yes, we that live in Portugal, if we have something, if I have something, I attend to the private, never to the public. Okay. Thinking abroad Portugal, the option is not using the health insurance, the normal health insurance, because if you have an international insurance policy like Bupa, IMG, and so on, yes, you are okay to travel around the world or Europe, depending on the territorial scope that you choose. But if this is not the option, the situation, and usually is not the situation because this insurance, international insurance, they are very expensive. So every time that you travel, I really I strongly recommend a travel insurance policy. It's cheap. You can buy day by day, but if you plan travel 3, 4, 5 times a year, you also can select annual international plan that will covers you worldwide. You don't need to advise the company, the insurer, when you will be traveling. You will be insured 360 days. So depending on the situation, think in your situation and contact us, and we can assist you with that.
There you go. Thanks, Nuno. And much more about this next week, of course, at 7:30 on our webinar. Thank you, Alexandra, for the question. And back to you, Duarte, actually, for further questions. From Dwight, for example. Thanks, Nuno. To you, Duarte. So if we have not received our residency cards, but we have gone to our CEF IMA appointment on December the 14th of last year, 2023, when do we apply for this tax residency? And is it different from applying for residency certificates in our parish, which we needed for CEF and IMA? Please elaborate.
Yes, those are different things, because the parish or the municipality will issue the residency, the document. I don't know if I can call them residency certificates, but yeah, let's call them like that.
It's an atestado, isn't it? Is that what it's known as locally, an atestado?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of a statement, not exactly a certificate, but that statement will be issued if you have a rental contract, if you have some sort of documents, but it will not prove your tax residency. Okay. For the tax residency, you need to have documents issued by CEF or IMA. But if you already went to the appointment, I believe that the documents they provide you at CEF or IMA should be sufficient to change the tax residency. Now, when should you change the tax residency? Well, you could change in December if you were actually living in Portugal. You can also try to do it do it in January, because it seems like you would comply with the requirements for the transition regime that it's applicable now in 2024. So if you have not changed the tax residency in 2023, and if you are already living in Portugal, I would recommend changing now in January or as soon as possible.
Great. Okay, that's for Dwight. Let's stay with you, Dwight, for this. For Larry, please explain the new ITS. Is that transition system as opposed to the old NHR for someone that will not be getting any income other than their social security monthly income?
Well, this is a much more complicated question. It's very difficult to address in just a few minutes, because the new regime is very different. So I would say that we can discuss this over a call.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be too complex and too long to be discussing here. But in general, the new regime is not built for retirement income.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So duarte.cruz@conceito.pt to set up that call. And it sounds like with Rebecca's possible sort of complexities with your situation, Rebecca, that might be a good idea too, to get in touch with duarte.cruz@conceito.pt, which he may well pop into the chat for us as well to help us with that as well. Thank you, Duarte and Larry and Rebecca there. And Dwight, We needed this parish residency statement for our GIR, Global International Relocation, shipping for acceptance of our household goods into the country to show exactly what day we arrived and our exact residence address in order to be qualified for customs-free entry of our shipment. Thank you for that explanation there, Dwight. And yes, that would have been the attestado that you get from your local freguesia. Thank you very much for that. We have...
Carl, just sorry, can I jump in just to make a quick
Please
comment?
do, yeah, absolutely.
Because Rebecca is asking another question, which is very straightforward. So I might as well address it immediately. She's asking, under the NHR, would foreign retirement income received in 2024 before becoming a tax resident be taxed in Portugal? No. The only income that is taxable in Portugal is the one you earn after you became a tax resident, and that's why it's so relevant, the difference between the 183-day rule and the partial tax residency that I explained a few minutes ago.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for picking up on that. Appreciate it. Kudos to you, Daniel, for not living in a condo. You deal with enough of those meetings professionally, by the sound of it.
Yes.
And Grace and Charlie saying they are not fun. Now, we might have scared some people tonight who are thinking of living in condominiums in Portugal. What exactly are they up against? What's the problem here?
Well, there's usually a meeting every year, so they're not that common, and it's usually at this time of the year. What the majority of times people will not agree on how to spend the money and what are the priority in terms of the things that need to be renovated in the buildings. And some people, I do think that they have a very lonely life. So once the condominium meeting starts, it's their time to shine, and they do speak a lot and without consideration that they're just burning time that is useful to spend with the families and whatnot, because usually condominium meetings are done from 5:36 in the evening onward. And I've had condominium meetings starting at 6 and finishing at 12 o'clock. Because people, instead of managing their time and just saying useful things, they like to speak and they like to be heard. And if you're lonely, and the condominium meeting is a great opportunity for you just to speak a lot of things and nonsensical things. That's my take on it. But you can always pay someone to represent you if you don't want to go through that sociological experience. And this is where I come in.
I think people might hesitate a little bit to put you through that, but you do get paid for doing it, so it makes it worth.
Yes. For myself, I would like to avoid it, but if I'm getting paid, I'll bear it. Sometimes it's fun. I've had interesting fights in the condominium meetings, so sometimes it's fun.
And on a serious note, because you are there representing, you can probably be a bit more objective and a bit more demanding, can't you, on behalf of your clients?
And there's the majority of people, of course, they're not trained in law. And having a lawyer in one of the condominium meetings, it's useful because we can, once we see that the meeting is getting sidetracked, we can pull the scope out of the meeting into the correct track and basically try to be as objective as possible. But yeah, sometimes it's no fun, depending on the size of the building, if there's a lot of units or not, and if you have good neighbors or not. Usually mid-sized buildings like 6 floors, you'll have 12 neighbors. Some of them will not show up in the condominium meeting. So you have a meeting with 7, 8 people. But in some other buildings, you can have 40, 50 units, and then it's painstaking.
Yeah, it sounds like for some people it's therapy, perhaps. And Mariana is also agreeing there. Condo meetings are always the drama. Sounds like a Portuguese soap opera could be based on condominium meetings. Maybe there is one already.
For sure. For sure.
Should we write that script?
Killer. I think that people would indeed pay to see a show, a small TV series like The Office, but with condominium meetings. 15 minutes for each episode. Keep it short, keep it fun. That's a good storyline.
And the characters would be so brilliant, wouldn't they? Some fantastic Portuguese characters in there. Okay, to meet people, you can also get a dog. A great way to meet people might even involve some drama as well. So thank you for the different tactics.
having a dog is, I lived in a flat for quite a long time, and I did know my neighbors from hi neighbor, bye neighbor, but once I got a dog, all the neighbors that got a dog, usually people get, they walk the dogs at the same time. And it's brilliant to meet new neighbors, or the neighbors that you've known all your life, but you've never swapped a lot of words with them. So getting a dog, it assists quite a lot in your social life, believe me.
It's true. And Debbie's stepping forward with this as well. Having a dog is amazing. I spent 4 months overseas, including Portugal, with my dog, and literally thousands of people wanted to talk to me about her. That's true. I find that as well. And of course, we should mention that many dogs need adopting as well. So
Yep.
it's quite a nice little ecosystem there that you'll be involved in with that. Notwithstanding some of the issues you can have by having a dog. Gilda isn't here tonight to tell us about Mandela, but it can go that way as well. You can end up with a somewhat needy dog occasionally. So more drama there possibly. With the condo idea, how about this? Grace and Charlie suggesting the Real Housewives of Condo de Lisboa. I think we're on to a winner here.
Brilliant.
We
You're on to a good idea.
Superb. And Debbie, your dog is adorable, apparently. Your dog is already famous, nearly as famous as Mandela here this evening. So thanks, Debbie. Thank you, Daniel, there for seconding that. And actually, another serious matter with where you live. So exactly which area near Lisbon does Daniel live? We were talking about Loures before, Loures, big IKEA there, big shopping centre. Dwight has friends looking to move to Portugal and want a detached home, but want to be close to Lisboa too. So we've discovered that that's a very distinct possibility, isn't it? You can be
Correct.
beyond a condo and live quite close to Lisbon by being and looking in the Loures area.
Yeah, Mafra, if you don't need to come every day to Lisbon, Mafra is a good region as well, and it's nearby the sea. It's closer to Ericeira. Ericeira prices, they've soared in the last few years. So if you like the countryside, but to be nearby the shore, do have a look into Mafra, because there's a lot of detached homes over there, and a nice feel to it. So I chose Lourdes because basically I need to come to Lisbon every day and work. But if I wanted to be close to Lisbon, but not as close, I would have a look into Mafra or even Ericeira. I love the small little village of Ericeira. It has a really excellent quality of life.
Great tips. Thank you. Mariana, do you want to unmute and tell us? I mean, it sounds like Mariana needs a little bit of therapy about condos. Everybody ends up yelling and saying they aren't coming to any more condo meetings ever again. Maybe that's a New Year's resolution for some people as well. Thanks for that really useful intel there about where to live around Lisbon. I think that will be very helpful to some people tonight. So thanks for that, Daniel. Kelsey, your NHR question, I think that's been dealt with admirably there by Susie and Mariana as well. So thank you very much, everybody. We're drawing to a close now. So if you do have questions, get them in. I'll take a look over at YouTube, where Sarah Davey has become a member. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member over there, Sarah. Good of you. I owned a townhouse for 18 years that had an association, says LaRonda. There were only 5 of us who regularly attended the meetings and would hold the different positions. So we each took a turn at being president, vice president, secretary, etc. Most owners didn't participate. Those who did only complained and complained more when decisions were made that they didn't like. It was like being in the twilight zone. Never again. There's so much pain around these condominium meetings. Linda is asking of you, Duarte. I have NHR and sell my home. If I have NHR, beg your pardon, and sell my home in the US after moving to Portugal, will I have to pay capital gains? We were talking about this in the earlier call. It's a good subject to be talking about. Also, if I move to Portugal in April and do not apply for tax residency until December of 24, would I only pay taxes on my income for December? Duarte, can you help us with this capital gains thing in the previous country where you're selling a home?
Yes, of course. One of the good things about the NHR is that capital gains from real estate properties will not be taxable in Portugal in the majority of cases. So because the tax treaty, the double tax treaties allow for this income to be taxed in the country of source, and in general it will. So the NHR regime will exempt this income from any taxation in Portugal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
On the other question about April and December. Well, if you only change the tax residency in December, the tax authorities will only tax you based on December, or you will only declare based on December. What can happen is the tax authorities finding out that you were actually living here since April, because sometimes there is some communication with CEF. And if that's the case, the tax authorities will require a new tax return from you. They will chase you and you will be on their blacklist. And basically every year you'll get a new inspection and you'll get sick of it and you will abandon Portugal.
Wow. Okay. So I think it's fairly clear what to do in that situation. Thank you, Duarte, for that. We're drawing to a close. If I have missed your question, please, especially over here on Zoom, if I've missed your question, make sure it comes to the bottom now, because we get these threaded questions and sometimes things are getting missed. So do bring that to my attention as we go into the last 5 minutes and talk more culturally about Portugal. I love these cultural questions that I ask of the Dream Team. And it became apparent to us in the last session that no sooner have we recovered from Christmas and New Year that the Portuguese are partying again in about a month's time for Carnival. And we're not complaining, because that's a wonderful thing about Portugal, the amount of partying that goes on here. I would like to ask our Dream Team panelists where their favorite Carnival is in Portugal. I think it's a fairly new kind of festivity in the calendar. So let's start with Daniel. Do you go to Torres Vedras? Do you go to Santarém? Or do you stay close to home, Daniel?
Well, it's not a recent festivity. It's quite an old one.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah. It really has historic roots in Portugal. I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of Carnival. I'm not a big fan of masquerades and all that. But my favorite one is indeed Torres. It's nearby, and it's the most lively one in the region. Although again, Lourdes has a well-known carnival, but it's not as good as Torres Vedras, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much for that. It's funny, we're finding that out from a few of our Portuguese friends tonight, that they don't actually like Carnival that much, but somebody's obviously going and partying till 4 or 5 in the morning with these. Nuno, what about you?
I'm like Daniel. I'm not a big fan of Carnival. For me, Carnival is in Brazil point.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what is your favorite party of the year? Oh, I guess in Christmas, possibly.
Yes.
Family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gathering family.
Well, it's not been my best of questions asking the panel where. Let's see what Mariana makes of this. Are you a Carnival person or not?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not like the biggest fan as well.
It's a damp squib tonight.
I mean, I have nearby the Sesimbra Festival, Carnival.
Oh, okay.
So I've heard that it's fun. Maybe I will try this year. But at this stage of my life, I don't know why I'm appreciating the old saying of Portuguese of enjoying sopas e descanso. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I
But it's
haven't. Tell
basically
me more. What was? Could you say it slowly for us as well?
sopas e descanso. I will write in the chat as well. It's like soups and rest, which is basically just like chilling and laying down at home and just resting, basically.
And yes, maybe the modern equivalent is to add Netflix to that as well, possibly.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's like, so you're kind of settling down, are you, when you're into the soup and comfort and just sort of taking it easy and putting your dancing shoes or hanging them up, your dancing shoes from Carnival.
Mhm.
Okay, Diana, what about you? Thank you for that, Mariana. Is Diana there?
No, I'm not fond to any special holiday. I think the one that most I enjoy is Christmas, because I always share with my family, the gifts, but yeah, nothing special.
We do not have party animals here on the Dream Team. In many ways, that's great, isn't it? You're dealing with very professional, level-headed people here who don't like to be frivolous and go partying, unless Duarte does. What's your favorite, Duarte?
Well, Carnival, I'm not the biggest fan either. This year I will try Carnival in Badajoz in Spain. I'll try a different one, but usually I don't. I don't do anything for Carnival. I do like Santos Populares in Lisbon, so the month of June is a big one. And I do go out every weekend, no exceptions.
Okay, so it's even though that's not your favorite festivity, you're still happy to do it for research purposes by the sound of it. And
Exactly. That's why I'm going to Spain. I need to collect more information about other jurisdictions.
this sounds like a fabulous research project. So what's going on? What's going on over there, especially? Did you say Badajoz? I've got friends who've just come back from there. They really liked it.
Yeah, so supposedly the carnival there is really popular. It's one of the most popular in Spain. Not as big as in Tenerife. I think in Tenerife they go completely crazy. It's like Brazil in Europe for carnival purposes.
Okay.
But I think Badajoz is quite known, and yeah, I'll tell you in a few weeks, Carl.
Please, we're looking forward to that. And Shari and Sarah, I'm not sure you'll have anything to. Oh, and Carolina, I forgot to ask Carolina. What about yours?
I'm with the majority. I'm not a
my
fan of Carnival either.
What you like,
But-
you lot, honestly.
But the most famous one and the one that my friends go to is Torres Vedras.
Okay, all right, and that's where a lot of men dress up as women for that particular one, isn't it? It's known for it, I think, for the drag element. Okay, all right, and maybe see you there. And I think there's probably quite a big call for a soup and rest group on the Expats Portugal forum where you can swap recipes for soup as you take a quiet night in. And just chat to each other quietly on the forum there. Shari, I suspect for you and for Sarah, you won't have any intel on this, except to next time you're visiting Portugal to tie it in with one of these celebrations. Sarah, would you like to add a last word this evening?
Well, on Carnival, I'm probably like everyone else, to be honest. We have the Notting Hill Carnival here, but I don't go to that. But I think, I don't know if it's a kind of tourist thing, but if it was something happening in another country like Portugal, I'd probably go along to it to experience it. But yet when it's happening in your own country, you probably don't as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally understand. Thank you for being here tonight. We've got a quickie from Arup looking for a tax consultant who can help us file our tax returns for here in Portugal. Talk to Duarte. And for if you're a US citizen who needs help with the filing of a US tax return, you can deal with Shari. All of these lovely folks who don't like Carnival, it would seem, can be found in the Expats Portugal business directory. Pancake Day, we can talk about that, Sarah, can't we? Somebody asked about Pancake Day. That's very British, I think. Shrove Tuesday, where you clean out all the things from the cupboard and you make pancakes. Is Pancake Day a thing in Portugal to our Portuguese people here? I'm getting a shaking of the head. So quite British, and probably near a British expat's house near you in Portugal for a flipping of the pancakes. I think we've dealt with all the questions tonight. Great job. Dream Team, and we'll see you again next week at 9 o'clock after Nunu's session on the healthcare system at 7:30. Anything else to add, Astrid, tonight?
I just want to say what a marvelous turnout we had today for the first one of the year. So thank you everyone for coming. And but that's it. We'll see you next week.
Fabulous. Okay, thanks everybody. Take care. Cheers, Dream Team. Have a great new year. You and